folks? I'm Chris, your NFL writer here at Occupy Fantasy, here with a look at the 10-game Week 12 slate on DraftKings and the 11-game slate over on FanDuel, which includes the Philadelphia Eagles, Los Angeles Rams Sunday night football game. Normal agenda of the show here. I like to go over my favorite play for the entire slate, and this week, that is going to be Miami Dolphins starting running back Devin Achane. Achane is $7,500 here on DraftKings and $9,100 over on FanDuel. Facing the New England Patriots, the Dolphins at home are 7.5-point favorites at this point in betting markets. The Patriots have the fifth worst rush defense on the season, and they are well below average defending running backs in the passing game. Similar to Alvin Kamara, who is on bye this week, so he cannot be chalk, finally. We have like a 5-6 target floor for Achane in this offense with Tua Tagovailoa. So Achane brings a lot of floor, but also tremendous ceiling in a great matchup here against the New England Patriots. So I do think he's the first man in your low-risk lineups and probably in the majority of your lineups in all contest types this week. Like to go through the biggest favorites on the slate to talk about who is in the best position to succeed in betting markets. We're expecting positive game scripts for running backs on the Washington Commanders because Commanders are favored by 10.5 points this week against the Dallas Cowboys. And that means that Brian Robinson Jr. is going to be one of the more popular plays at the position. He had a couple of games off, but he returned to the RB1 role against the Eagles last weekend. You see 16 carries, just one target in the passing game, but we're expecting a positive game script against the Cooper Rush-led Dallas Cowboys here on Sunday. Dallas Cowboys have the sixth worst rush defense on the season, and they are actually the worst defense defending running backs in the passing game. So if Robinson sees a few more targets than Austin Eckler, then he will also be able to benefit from that matchup here as well. I like playing Robinson in low-risk lineups this week. Also, behind Robinson, we also have another 10.5-point favorite. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs on their road game here against the Carolina Panthers. And we get one more week of Kareem Hunt as the clear lead tailback for Andy Reid's offense. Isaiah Pacheco is going to miss at least this week with his knee injury that has held him out for the majority of the season here. Panthers are the worst rush defense in the league. They're pretty good defending running backs actually in the passing game, but that's not where we're expecting Hunt to get his work in this week. So love playing Hunt in low risk, especially here on DraftKings at just $5,700 in a positive matchup. We have Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans. Actually projecting to be one of the better high-risk plays on this slate because the three guys I've already talked about are going to cannibalize the majority of the ownership. And Mixon here in a good matchup is going to be relatively low-owned. We have him, let's take a look in the Occupy model. We have Joe Mixon as our number one play at the position, and he's going to be between like 10 to 15% on DraftKings and FanDuel. So not like super low-owned, but still lower than expected. Mixon actually is a tough matchup here. The Titans are the 8th best rush defense on the season, but they're the 2nd worst defense defending running backs in the passing game. So I think that's why we'll see Mixon be a little bit lower owned than everybody else I've already discussed because he's got a little bit of a tougher spot here and his salary a little higher than some of these guys as well. The Detroit Lions are favored by 7 points against the Colts on the road here, and we have the split backfield between Gibbs and Montgomery. I feel like we talk about this every single week with the most productive offense in the NFL. Hope you were in on the Lions last week. Montgomery has seen slightly more work on the ground, so I do think he is your better back to bet on for a positive game script with Detroit here. Detroit with the best run-blocking offensive line. Indianapolis dead on league average, 16th defending the rush, so pretty good spot here for Montgomery. And then we are going to have pretty much a league average matchup in the passing game, which is a lean towards Gibbs here, who tends to see a little bit more action on that side of the ball, although in recent weeks that actually has gone Montgomery's way as well. So maybe DeMont is the one to play here in high-risk contests for the Lions. Finally, outside of like positive game scripts, who else? Christian McCaffrey is going to be popular this week, playing a ton of snaps, seeing a ton of touches. You see 20 to 25 touches is kind of the expected opportunities here. Going to have some issues here with San Francisco because Brock Purdy is out this week. They have Brandon Allen making a start here on the road against the Green Bay Packers, and the 49ers are 5.5-point underdogs. Maybe that actually is a good thing for McCaffrey's PPR value in fantasy, though, because he will maybe see a few more targets from Brandon Allen in a negative game script here. Haven't really seen a ceiling performance from McCaffrey, but It's hard to sneeze at a floor of 15 fantasy points roughly here. You just got to pay a lot to get to it on DraftKings and FanDuel. The Packers slightly below average defending running backs on the ground and through the air. So positive opportunity for McCaffrey. Going to be one of the 4 most popular running backs at the position this week. So that's your running back core. With quarterbacks, where is the field this week? Jaden Daniels with the Washington Commanders is going to be the most popular player in low-risk contests given his rushing upside. So I do think in low-risk lineups on DraftKings, you want to find your way to Daniels if possible. He is the most expensive quarterback that you can deploy, so that does make it a little bit more difficult to get to him if you want to play some better players elsewhere. So the other options that the field is gravitating to, looking at some stuff around the industry, we have Geno Smith, pure pocket passer here, although we did have the rushing touchdown to win the game last week. Seattle, very pass-heavy offense. Geno Smith is amongst the pass leaders in the league. I think he's only behind Joe Burrow right now. Good matchup here for him against the Arizona Cardinals at home. But Anthony Richardson, fresh off of return to the starting lineup and a win against the Jets, is a touchdown underdog against Detroit. But with his rushing skill set, he's an interesting opportunity here as well on this slate, and the field will be gravitating to him, so I'm going to plug him in here as the cheapest of this group and as an opportunity to maybe see a little bit more of a ceiling than we would expect normally for an underdog just because of that rushing upside. At defense, I'm going to skip to that before we get to the pass catchers for lowest contest this week. We have the Bears pulling the most projected ownership in our model in their matchup here on against the Vikings at home. So that is certainly an opportunity to exploit on DraftKings here at just $2,500. Over on FanDuel, we have the New York Giants, are very cheap, $3,300 over there. I think they will be the most popular play for your low-risk contests. But if you want some other options that our model is very high on, you got to pay up for it a little bit. Pricing's pretty condensed in defense this week, I've noticed, so paying up is not like a tremendous difficult thing to do. Dallas is going to be our highest ranked defense in the Occupy model. Washington is going to be our highest ranked defense in the Occupy model against Dallas this week. So that's a good opportunity for sure. We have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Carolina Panthers, and we have the Denver Broncos against the Las Vegas Raiders as the best defense options in the Occupy model this week, independent of salary. At pass catcher, the field is going to try to find its way to Travis Kelce and his astronomical role in this offense, leaving the Buffalo game aside with just 4 targets. He has seen a 30% plus target share since the Rashee Rice injury. I do think we are in a good spot for that to continue here because the Panthers are the 4th worst defense defending tight ends in the NFL this year. And this is Travis Kelce we're talking about, right? So we want to try to get to him in low risk. Some other things I think the field will consider to get a little goofy here. Hunter Henry is going to be a little bit more popular over on FanDuel than Travis Kelce. So when I flip over to FanDuel, you'll see that I have him in the low risk build for that site. We have an opportunity with Dallas because Jake Ferguson is out with a concussion to play another min-price tight end if you can stomach it. Luke Schoonmaker here is $2,500. He had 10 targets last week against the Houston Texans. I think that's a good opportunity to pull on to save some salary, and hopefully this goes a little bit better than the Davis Allen play did last week if we go that route. But understand that's an option on the table for high-risk contests, maybe low-risk contests as well to fit in some other things that have higher ceilings. So if we plug in Kelce, if we plug in Bears D, where does that leave us for our receivers? We've got 57.66 per player remaining for some of our wide receivers. And this actually is kind of where the field is going to live at receiver this week on DraftKings. 2 of the most popular plays are going to be Cortland Sutton with the Broncos and Jacoby Myers with the Las Vegas Raiders, just given their wide receiver 1 roles in their respective offenses. They're underpriced for their 7-8 plus target projection. And now we're sitting on a low risk lineup here where we have $6,400 remaining for a final spot. I do think this is pretty much your expected build for the field here in low risk contests this week. And you see the options that you have left to consider. Guys like Tank Dell, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Josh Downs, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jameson Williams, Jaden Reed, Calvin Ridley, Jawan Jennings. These are all some of the more popular plays at the position you can consider. And I do think my favorite in this group is going to be JSN. But you can't go wrong with a great number of these guys. For tiebreakers, I would consult the Occupy model and pick the highest ranked one to fit in your lowest lineup. But JSN, with his double-digit target amounts that he has seen in a couple of weeks in a row here now for Seattle, I do think this is completely fine to pile in on that and expect that to continue here in a big division game for Seattle, who's trying to climb back into the playoff race here. So low risk feels pretty clear on DraftKings to me. Over on FanDuel. Similar approach here. Michael Pittman with the Colts is going to be very popular, and we also expect Calvin Ridley with the Titans to be very popular. You see I have $6,700 left for a final spot. I could play Ridley, Myers, Jennings, like all pretty much the same suspects you saw over in DraftKings for the low risk build are possible here. Giants defense instead of Bears defense, but everything else pretty much the same. 4 low risk contests this week. Looked at the Philadelphia and Los Angeles game and noticed nothing here is going to be super popular, which gives us some opportunities to exploit. Low-owned Rams receivers. Devontae Smith is out. A.J. Brown is $8,500 here on FanDuel, but I do think he's going to be the most popular play in this game on the classic slate. Saquon Barkley, priced at $10,000 at running back, projects for just 5% ownership, so he's probably a good tournament play if you can find the salary to get to him as well. But for low risk, I don't think we're playing anyone from this Philadelphia and Los Angeles game this week over on DraftKings. Just to be clear, over on FanDuel here, just to be clear about that. High risk contest this week. We have some opportunities with underperforming receivers that we can discuss on this slate. The number one underperforming wide receiver is Malik Neighbors with the Giants. He did miss practice on Friday, so we're going to have to monitor his status, but we see 10 plus targets in each of the last 3 games. Change at quarterback with Tommy DeVito at the minimum price. That might be interesting in large field contests like the Millie Maker. Number one underperforming wide receiver in the model. A little bit more popular on this slate, we have Calvin Ridley with the Tennessee Titans. He's going to be just outside of what we're expecting for low-risk ownership on DraftKings and well within that on FanDuel. Still has a 30% plus target share in this offense since the Hopkins trade. Volume came down a little bit last week against Minnesota, but the air yard roll, the market share is still very strong for Ridley. Number 2 underperforming wide receiver in the model. We have a pair of Chicago Bear receivers that are underperforming their opportunities. Keenan Allen, who is questionable, so we do have to monitor his status, and Rome Odunze, who would benefit from Allen being out, both on the underperforming wide receiver list from Chicago. A.J. Brown with the Eagles is on this list as well. I forgot to mention that when we were talking about FanDuel. On Houston, Tank Dell is technically underperforming his opportunities as well, so he's another good high-risk option. And then we have 2 receivers we've talked about for quite a few weeks in a row here. We have Kayshon Boutte with the Patriots. He will be a underperforming wide receiver. His salary did not move off of the $3,500 he's been stuck on for a couple of weeks here. So we can go back to the well there. 6 targets every single game. You can kind of lock him in for that opportunity. Maybe finally he will connect on a long pass with Drake May here. And then going back over to FanDuel, we actually have Demarcus Robinson on the Rams as another underperforming wide receiver option on this slate. For me, my favorite way to play this slate in high-risk contests, I don't really love these low-risk receivers. So I'm fine with playing Kelsey. I'm fine with playing the running backs. I'm fine with even playing the chalk defense. But I like differentiating at quarterback and receiver this week. I love the upside of Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, and Kayshon Boutte as a game stack. $6,400 for a final spot here on DraftKings. I think we can get to that pretty easily. Another high ceiling stack that I'm interested in, CJ Stroud with Nico Collins is back. Had a good role last week. Had a couple of big plays called back. So technically we could call him underperforming if we counted those opportunities on the stat sheet. So I like leveraging that. You could even use Calvin Ridley as a bring back here and figure this out with $5,300 remaining for a couple of spots here. Might be difficult if you get Achane back in there, which is what I want to do at $3,100. So you might have to massage just a little bit and come down in salary off of something like maybe Kelsey and play a cheaper tight end. This would be an opportunity to consider going all the way down to Shoemaker. Now you can play one of those chalk receivers, or you could even come up at tight end a little bit in the mid-range here to somebody like, let's say, a Sam Laporta returning to the lineup here for Detroit, who sees a ton of targets usually when he's out there, and find a player in this $4,600 range. That, I think, has high potential. Behind Houston, behind Miami, I am sneaky interested in this San Francisco stack, even though they are the underdog side, with a minimum price quarterback in Brandon Allen under center. He still has Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, and he's probably going to be chasing points, so there's going to be an opportunity for him to rack up some fantasy points here. Packers are league average defending the pass. Maybe Brandon Allen can actually keep this thing going. We can get Christian McCaffrey in here over Achane if we want to differentiate a little bit. We could choose between DK at $6,500 or Juwan Jennings at $56 here on FanDuel. Maybe go that route. Still have 60-33 per player remaining. Means you could play Kelsey and have that average salary go up, and there are some receivers in that range that are well in play this week. So there's a ton of options on this slate. I'm actually excited about the Week 12 slate. There's a lot of good different ways to play it, and I'm looking forward to see how it all shakes out. Appreciate you guys watching these videos. As always, we will be back next week to talk to you about Week 13 in the NFL.